Hi, this is Aunt Beth. Welcome to my lamppost. Today I wanted to talk about Martha in the Bible and how I think she gets a bad rap. One of the things you need to think about when anyone's telling you a story or relating a conversation is who is telling the story. So John, who was closest to Jesus, comments about Martha, and I think this is just amazing. So in John chapter 11, when Lazarus has died, it says, John says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So he names Martha first, which I think is very interesting. And this is the Martha and Mary who in Luke talks about they had a big party at the house and Martha was upset because nobody was helping her. Mary was sitting listening to Jesus. And so she went up to the Lord and said, get my sister to help me. And he said, Mary's chosen the good portion. But I have a comment about that before we go on. The Bible does not say how Martha responded. Maybe she dropped everything and realized Mary knew something. And she stopped and she went and listened. Maybe we don't also have the tone of how Jesus spoke to her. Maybe he was just laughing because he realized that Martha's love language was serving and Mary's love language was time. Okay, and each of them were swimming in their own lane. But regardless, that's the Martha that we're talking about. I think it's very interesting that in the resurrection of her brother, Martha and Mary talked about in John 11. And in that, the first interesting thing is that John says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Okay, doesn't even call Mary by name. So, if you're type A extrovert, not extrovert, but a type A get her done kind of person, I want this to encourage you. So often for type A women, Mary's held up as just, the ideal perfect person. And she was in her own strengths. But not everybody can be a Mary. But I love what you read further on. Their brothers died. They sent for Jesus. He takes his time coming back so that a greater miracle can happen. You think about two things about Martha then. In verse 20 of John chapter 11, it says, then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary was still sitting in the house. So Mary's taking care of everybody and being the hostess with the mostess and staying there. Martha, she's after Jesus. And she gets up and she goes after Jesus. And it's interesting because both Martha and Mary say the same thing initially when they meet up with Jesus, because Mary eventually does come. Martha says, if you had not been here, my brother would not have died. Both of them say that. But Martha is the only one that gets in the nitty-gritty and challenges the Lord. She says, but even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Mary's like, if you hadn't been here, my brother wouldn't have died. End of story. That's it. it's Martha that challenges the Lord and says, you know, I know that whatever you ask of God, he'll give you. And when you read also in John 11:27, she has an amazing statement of faith. She says, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. So this is absolutely amazing that a woman would take the initiative, go after Jesus instead of him waiting for her, and put out a challenge that whatever you do, I know God will give it to you. Mary comes and says, in verse 32, she says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Exact same thing Martha says, but no challenge. And then Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. So whoever you are a type A woman or type A person that has a hard time just with the contemplative, reflective life. I don't want you to feel bad, okay? Because it was Martha that challenged the Lord, and Martha with an amazing statement of faith. She had an assertive personality in that time where that wasn't, as far as I know, the norm. But she was who she was. She was who she was. And it's funny to me that Jesus is getting ready to do the challenge, meet the challenge. And she says, roll away the stone. And she doesn't stop them. She's just commenting, he's going to stink, I just think that's so funny that she's so real. So if you are a type A person that you've tried really hard, but you just can't be that person that's quiet and reflective, don't feel bad, because it was Martha that challenged the Lord and miracles happened. So all God's best to you.